This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Active shooter is dead. Okay.
Whatever you do, whatever you think about, the possibilities that Donald Trump might present, he's not an acceptable option. He's not an acceptable alternative. I hope that he is defeated in the primary, but if he's not, we have to defeat him in the general. And people need to take seriously and literally what he's saying, which is that he would, in fact, unravel our democracy, potentially terminate the Constitution. It's a risk we can't take.
I mean, she's not going to stop telling you. She isn't. She will never stop telling you to take him seriously, to listen to what he says, to understand when he says that he would be a dictator for at least a day, like queen for a day or whatever. He ain't going to, like give out dishwashing machines. He's not going to give out refrigerators. He's going to actually, I don't know, tell corporate America that they can drill in your backyard. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. He wants to drill on day one. I honestly do not understand. And closing the border, been there, done that. You do know that, right? You know Ronald Reagan tried to close the border. Richard Nixon tried to close the border, all in service of their drug war. Well, I'm glad they solved our drug problem here in the United States. They did solve it, didn't they? I mean, they closed the border, and so there are no more drugs in the United States that come through from Mexico, right? Right? I mean, come on. Mike in California.
Hi, Randi.
Hello.
I'm just calling to say we did have a border policy that was working, and Ronald Reagan ended it. And the policy was if you hired an illegal, you'd go to jail. What's wrong with that?
Well, I don't think any of it worked. I don't think anything that we've ever done actually ever works. And the reason why it doesn't ever work is because as long as you have a neighbor to the south, okay, where things are not great, they are going to want to leave the south and come here. And I don't care what you, try to dissuade them with, jail or separating kids, or they're still going to try for a better life. And they're going to come from Central America if they're not going to come from Mexico. And if they're not going to come from Central America, then they're going to come from South America. And if there's problems in Venezuela, in South America, then that's where they'll be coming from. And if there's problems in Argentina and people are disappearing, then that's where they'll come from. And if there's problem in China because they're putting people in camps there, then people are going to come from China. So unless you follow Donald Trump's thinking and we become as heinous and as bad for people as China, as Mexico, as Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, as violent as they are or as unlivable and unhospitable that those countries are, unless we actually, lower ourselves to that level, people will always want to come here.
Okay, but we had a law.
Where did your people come from?
Norway.
Okay. So, why would you, immigrate from Norway to the United States?
Well, I didn't, but my grandmother did.
Okay, why? Why did they make that choice?
Things weren't so good at that time, I guess.
Guess so, because that's the only reason why people would uproot their entire family and trek halfway around the world and start with, the same old immigrant story that we all got from our grandparents or our parents or our great-grandparents, that they came here with, a nickel in their pocket and look what they made. Okay?
Yeah, but if the law was still in effect and an employer hired them, the employer would go to jail, not the illegal or undocumented worker. It was illegal for an employer to employ undocumented workers. And what was wrong with that law?
No, there was nothing wrong with that law, but it didn't really solve your problem. But I understand. We're supposed to have E-Verify, right? We're supposed to actually force employers to do checks and make sure that who they're hiring is has a green card, or who they're hiring has a work permit, or whoever they're hiring isn't here illegally, or who they're hiring can pass a background check on E-Verify's system. But corporate doesn't want to do it. They don't want to do it. We have a
Well,
country.
yeah, but
So we have this dichotomy, right? We have a country that is based on immigrant labor. It really, truly is. I mean, I get emails from people all over this country who see, people toiling away at their jobs that no white man wants to do. And, when they tell me about, this guy wrote me, I'll just read you what he said. He said, listening to that guy with the Southern accent, do you remember the guy from the other day? I don't know.
No.
Okay. So he said, listening to that guy with the Southern accent from North Carolina complain about the border made me think back to my experience with undocumented workers. I once worked for a big commercial flower nursery. I was there for about 2 years when my boss needed me to go to the back of the huge greenhouses. I was a driver, so I spent most of my time up front loading, etc. But once back there, a group of 10 Mexicans, I think, dressed in white hazmat outfits came out to help me load boxes into carts. I noticed they all had welts on their skin. I would think from contact with the huge steam boilers back there. My point is that in the 2 years I worked there, these guys who were doing all the dirty work were there the whole time working, literally in the shadows. Okay? And here's another one. When my company needed to repave a driveway, the American company never returned my call. A company run by undocumented workers came right away, did a great job. And when I have to have body work done on my car, undocumented perform the work. Okay, and then you have, people, the company that does all my landscaping, Mexican/Latino. Do you know what the last thing I said today when I pulled out of my garage today to come to work? I said, hola, ¿cómo estás? And the guy said, todo bien. And guess what he was doing? He was spraying my driveway. This is our economy, you understand?
Yeah.
So I don't understand how your thing about, making the employers, pay the price is going to stop it. It never did. It never will. It is a step in the right direction as far as if you don't want people in slaughterhouses, if you don't want 16-year-olds cleaning up, blood and guts at night after school, then that would be a thing. But we have E-Verify, and nobody wants to use it.
Well, I was just trying to make the argument. We had a policy, and the Republican Party
have that policy.
shot it down.
No, but we still have that policy is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know what it is that I'm trying to, actually figure out what would actually solve our border problem. And the only thing that would solve our border problem is intervention in a positive way in countries that you can't live in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And right now, Panama and whatever country is north of them
Panama's fine.
is having a huge drought. So I'm sure there's going to be another wave coming to our shores because of all the countries they could come to, we offer the most benefit.
What
the
benefits?
most goodies.
We don't offer goodies to immigrants that aren't.
Well, the
legal.
weather is nicer than Panama.
The weather. First of all, Panama is not a place where you see a lot of people leaving. You just don't. You don't see people leaving from Panama. You don't see people leaving from Costa Rica. Okay, you just don't.
Yeah. If they have a huge drought, they might.
No, they won't.
Well, I'm a fan of your show.
Well, thank
you. Nice talking to you.
Okay, I don't understand. So, the only time I think we ever had a border that worked for all of us was during, I'm going to say, the Dust Bowl. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, but back then when people could come here, work, and go home at the end of a season or go home and freely travel back and forth, it just doesn't seem to me like it was such a humongous problem. But it does seem to me that every time we get a president whose solution to immigration is to close the border with our second largest trading partner, and knowing that we have an economy that is completely dependent on immigrant labor, always has been. Whatever the immigration at the time was, whether it was Italian immigrants, whether it was European immigrants, whether it was Irish immigrants, whether it was African immigrants from Senegal and Bangladesh, who are all, they're all still here. They're driving, in New York. They do all kinds of tile work. They do all kinds of construction work. They do all kinds of food carts. They do all. I don't know what it is that you think America should look like. But if it didn't have any immigrants in it, it would look like it died. Do you know what it wouldn't function. Nothing would happen at all. You wouldn't eat. Nothing would happen. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.